What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of this little speed build I'm doing on Far Cry 5's editor. Here we are on the basically exactly where we left off the last episode. Nothing has really changed. I didn't do anything off camera or anything. But I did sleep on the whole idea of the map, and I came out with like a better continuation, I guess you could say, because I did feel like coming in on a boat was a little strange considering the last level ended with you driving through a tunnel. So I decided to just kind of say forget that idea and place a tunnel as the starting area to, make it more continuous with what I had before. And this ended up being probably the worst idea I could have done for something as trivial as that, especially considering like nobody is actually gonna care about it. But you know what? I care about it, so it was annoying me and I had to change it. But this did end up costing me about a whole hour worth of terrain work, which when I tell you took up the majority of this recording, it took a majority of this recording. The original plan was to go in and detail the town down there, but I completely got sidetracked with making and integrating this idea into the world, and yeah, ended up being a really big roadblock here. This video is a lot longer than my last one, which is like 12 minutes. This is about 25 minutes, I think, give or take. So it is a little bit longer, but I think these types of videos should be kind of long because a lot of people just kind of like put them on in the background or whatever. So though I'm definitely not going any longer than this. I feel like this is like the max. If anything, I might go back down a little bit because editing these is kind of a pain. And if I'm, doing 30-minute recordings every time, or even longer, I would probably give up on this project. so yeah, we're gonna keep it in a reasonable kind of time, but remember, this is gonna be all in one playlist, so anybody who wants to binge it can just watch the playlist anyways. So yeah, but here we are. We finally got rid of the church and we put in this little water tower because I couldn't really find any good centerpiece that would grab the attention of the people coming out the tunnel. And I feel like the only thing that kind of fit naturally in this area was this little water tower right here. So I put that in a little spot where you would be able to see it coming out, and I kind of went from there. I got straight to work on this tunnel, and I actually started this exact idea for a level way back. So it's not the exact same idea, it was a little different, but it was still like supposed to be the sequel to my last one. And I got a pretty good chunk of the way. I probably put in like a solid 20-30 hours on that map. But I just did not like the way it was turning out at all, and I ended up just kind of bailing on it and starting a new one, which is this one. But honestly, all for good, because I would have never started the channel or started recording, and I kind of realized this is something I enjoy doing, so it all kind of worked out for the best. And yeah, kind of glad it happened, and this level's already turning out way better than the one I had going on earlier. As you could probably tell, the majority of this episode has been spent on these roads and these little minor adjustments to the terrain. But yeah, it took a minute, and I do think it was worth it though. It's a lot better to me to be coming out the tunnel now instead of coming in through the boat. And you'll see later on that once I start detailing that little hut right there, it all starts to like make a lot more sense. So after a while of working on that, I did start to get kind of annoyed at the idea of this, but especially with like the whole rocks and like, oh man, making tunnels in the rocks was so difficult. But I kind of learned a strat, so it wasn't too bad this time, but usually it took me so long. So just the idea of me putting that tunnel there was like, I don't know, I was like dreading it a little bit. So that's why I kind of just focused so hard on it at the beginning because I really just wanted it to get out the way and not even have to worry about it anymore. So thank God for that. Honestly, I'm glad I did that because if I had to keep looking forward to making that tunnel, I probably wouldn't have ever even done it. Honestly, I probably would have still had the boat, probably the spawn point right there on the ocean right now. But yeah, I decided against it. I decided not to procrastinate. I got right to work. And here I am just kind of testing out the vision, making sure the distance between everything made a lot of sense and there was like enough to warrant a drive. And on that aspect, I'd say I did a pretty good job. It's not like super long distance, but it's not super short distance either. So you could walk it, but cars would be beneficial and not um, a debuff like they were on my last thing. So mission complete on that part. And then I finally decided to change the dirt road to asphalt. I kept it like on the back burner because I didn't know if I wanted to do it yet, but I ended up doing it because it just looks a lot better, I'd say. And once I get the asphalt texture in there, it looks even better, and with the detail, even more so. So I'm glad I made that decision because I really didn't want to have just like nothing but dirt road. Um, if you didn't notice, I did actually end up changing earlier um, the lighting of the level because previously I had it on a more cooler kind of tone, but I decided to make it more warm like my last one because it just fits the textures a lot better, and it fits the more desert setting I'm going for. It's supposed to be set in like almost like an Indian kind of area, or like yeah, like something kind of like deserty, tropical, something like that. So to keep with that vibe, I didn't want like cool colors. The reason I had them on in the first place was honestly because I wasn't even gonna make the sequel in the beginning. The whole idea for the bridge I had was more of like a pine, cold forest kind of vibe, but it kind of changed midway through, doing the terrain, and yeah, I just kind of decided to make it more of like a warm tone, and the lighting looks a lot better because of it. I think it looked a lot more dead last episode, so good thing I changed it. So here we go, finally starting with the rocks. I decided to just kind of put all the rocks on like an area so I can go back to them instead of looking through them to the menu and just, find the object through there, which actually ended up helping a lot. I had never done this before. It was like a new strategy I developed and I ended up liking it. So But yeah, here we go, just making these, you know, rocks work with the tunnel. And honestly, it was not even that hard. Usually I have a really hard time with this, but I don't know, something about a new fresh mindset, since I haven't done it in so long, solved the problem pretty immediately. I started just using those like flat rocks on the top, and then detailing it with the other rocks on the sides, making sure there's nothing floating or anything like that, and it's not clipping through the tunnel. A couple times I got a little like stressed because I thought it looked too weird, but I just kept in mind the fact that like once you put the rest of the detail, the rocks kind of like lose their definition for the most part. You don't really notice them when there's just trees and bushes and particle effects and everything else in the way, especially this rock, because nobody's really looking behind them as soon as they get out of the starting area. But even if they did, I made sure it looks good. So I was gonna stop doing the rocks there, but then I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep it going, because these things take forever, and if I'm already if it's just like get rid of annoying stuff to do day, I might as well just add that one to the list. So I make sure the tunnel looks pretty good there. And in recording right now, I did notice I left a little spot right there. I did not catch that. When I first started doing this, it was kind of crazy to notice how many assets are usually like repeated in games, because I know that even though this is like its own engine or whatever, for the most part in a lot of open world games and any game in general, like nature assets are like one of the most repeated assets, because a lot of people don't even notice. And after starting to get into this, it's kind of crazy. Like there's probably a total of 10 assets that I use for the rocks and on the whole level. And you know, you just move them around enough, they all blend together in a way that if you're not really paying attention, you just don't notice them. And part of getting good at doing this is learning to put these in the right way to make it look as natural as possible. So as you can see, this mountain is coming really together, and once we put the trees in there, everything looks a lot better. I didn't want to get too in detail up there, because I know that the base with the little radar tower up there is eventually gonna get detailed, and I'll probably work on the cliffs more when I get to that. But yeah, mostly I was just focusing on the lower half over here with the tunnel and everything else, and I didn't want to, you know, get distracted working up there. You know, I'm really curious to know, like, once I do get, you know, into actual game development and I learn how to use Unreal and Unity, I'm so curious to like find out how much of this knowledge that I have using this editor kind of translates to other editors and other tools. Um, for the most part, I know it's definitely nowhere close to as easy on everything else, but I can imagine myself getting accustomed to like learning it pretty quickly, since I already have like a, like, I don't know, somewhat of an understanding, I guess, of how these things kind of work. So yeah, I'm like really curious to know, like, if I got my hands on some actual dev kits, how close would they resemble something as simple as this editor that Far Cry has. To be honest, if I could do this as a job, man, I would be doing it right now. It would be literally like my dream come true, honestly. if I could just sit there with an editor as easy as this and just make stuff for people, man, I would just be in heaven. I took a minute trying to get these rocks to look good. I don't know why it took me so long. Something was just not adding up about those rocks. So it takes me a minute to get through there, but that happens to me a lot. Like some things just do not look good to me, and I'll spend like a solid 15 minutes just making it as perfect as possible, even though I know even if my game was like super popular, everybody was playing this damn level, I bet exactly 0 people would even notice. And here we are finally getting started on the lot. I came across it doing this little road here, and I was like, I might as well throw that into the mix too. And we should, I kind of felt bad that last episode it was mostly spent on groundwork and not, the stuff that people find the most entertaining, I think, which is like detailing it out. So I wanted to include some of that with the little hut over there, and that was like my first little scene that I end up detailing on this level. But first things first, I had to put this wall here to make sure this tunnel area looked as good as possible. I'm definitely not done with it even after the wall. I want to make it, even more detailed, but just so that there's like, more of that groundwork, and more of that tedium out the way, because doing walls takes kind of a minute, as you're gonna see. I have to sit there and like manually lift every single one of them. It takes us all like 10-15 minutes just to, especially with like the longer ones, and it's kind of a pain in the, well, you know what, and I just didn't feel like doing that later, so got it done now. And so I was like, okay, that looks pretty good, and I kind of move on to bigger and better things. First things first is always to get the terrain ready and level, and I moved my little rocks over closer by so I didn't have to like turn my whole camera around, and I actually ended up only using it like one time. So, but getting the little skeleton for the rocks behind the hut ready, it's kind of crazy how garbage it looks before you put detail. Detail really is like everything in like, I guess in pretty much every field. I think detail is like the most important thing, but in this especially, everything looks so bare. Even if you like put all like the artificial detail, like the vegetation brush and everything, like it's not the same as putting everything individually, so it makes all the difference. Well, I guess I got distracted. I kind of forgot that I even started doing this down here. I don't know like why I changed my mind, but um we do end up fleshing out this little area a little bit more. I wanted to feel a little bit more, like I said, residential, so I put a little like store there, got some tents out, the house is a little bit, straighten everything out, because I don't know, I played a lot of like City Skylines and like Planet Coaster, Roller Coaster Tycoon, and those type of games when I growing up. So having everything straight is like, I just don't like the towns to feel too crooked, I guess. But after a while, I kind of thought that that was enough buildings for the town. I think I was just gonna leave the buildings there. I was kind of thinking about it a little bit, but I did decide against it and started to get to work on making this little scene here with a little hut. So we're starting with like kind of like a scrap garbage in the back, which people usually do. They put their garbage and stuff in the back of the building, so it all kind of just makes sense to have that there. And then something a little bit off to the side, I had this vision for like a path that led up to that little area that I think I pulled off pretty nice. and this is when I get to work on that. And honestly, one of my favorite parts is putting those little like mud paths. Something about it is like very satisfying to me, and I don't know, it just makes things look better. It might be because I'm crazy, but I don't know. Put some tire tracks for the cars that end up going in there. And those tire tracks, I love them. I use that asset so much because it's one of the only ones in the game that has like a 3D kind of effect to it. And it's really like important for making stuff and dirt look like it's been driven on, because there's nothing else in the game like it. So yeah, I use that quite a bit. Put some pebbles everywhere, put some rocks, blended the rocks to the ground a little better around there. Decided to get rid of those trees because they were annoying me, and decided to put some of my own. I like to do this thing where I have biomes in my level, so there's like different areas with different vegetation. Some, like this lower area for example, would have a lot of jungle trees, I guess, a lot of palms, and other areas would have more alpine trees or whatnot. And for this, it's mostly just palm trees. So I decided to stick with the theme. And in the future, this whole area is going to be a lot more forested. At the start here, it looks kind of bare, but trust me, that's going to change a lot once I start putting more trees in. Finally found the bushes I needed to fill in the space here. Nice thick bushes, can't really see through them, so really helpful for covering up, like bare space. And I love these little bushes too. They just look really pleasing to the eye. They look good in like the game engine, a lot of detail to them. So I like using them, and I use them pretty often. But it was a little bit too much there, so I lowered them a little bit, but made it look a little bit more overgrown than I planned. But I think it looks better that way, to have more vegetation around it, because it is kind of an old shed. It doesn't look like people use it too much, so try to keep it in theme with that. Laid some crates around, and that's pretty much, I think, all I did for this little spot. Definitely not minor, big changes. I thought it looked really nice, and once the shadows from the other forest kind of kick in and make the surrounding area look better, it'll probably be pretty top tier. But that's pretty much it. I kind of left it at that. That was about 2 hours of recording, so I condensed it quite a bit here, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't know if my narration was better or worse today. If you're seeing this, please let me know. And I also kind of want to know if you guys like to have a quietness in between where I'm not really talking as much and just letting the video play, or if you'd rather have just like a constant narration of what's going on with more cuts or whatever. So let me know in the comments below if you're watching. And other than that, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.